and then they travel with the current, and the waters are warmer, more active, and they break in pieces, and eventually they just melt before they reach the equator, which is a normal. I mean, there is nothing. I mean, it's sad in a way. It's a normal process. You know, that is not global warming consequence. Although the warming of the planet and the Antarctic in particular is most likely when you have the ice shelves, you know, getting from Antarctic into the sea, the top of the shelves is melting faster, and the bottom under the shelves is also melting. So these shelves will likely tend to break more often in smaller pieces over time, which is a big threat of you know, with consequences in the sea level rises and all that.
How do you finance a project like that? I mean, you're a venture capitalist, so you must have a few contacts. Yeah. But explain to some of us who don't know this world at all how it happens.
I brought my bag here and I take cash. I typically take the risk, so I say it's going to happen, and people know that if I organize an expedition like this, it's going to happen. I take the risk, and then I know I'm going to finance a good part of it myself. This part was probably you know, more than half my cost. And I have sponsors who have followed me for many years. French group called Sopra, which is a digital transformation group, La Française, which is an asset management group, and others, and also individuals, and just, you know, almost anonymous people who are just willing to help. The film is not really raised much money because the cost of doing it is, as people who do documentaries here know, that it's a lost cause to make money. But that, you know, creates awareness, it helps, and for the next project will help as well. I should also say I've written a companion book to the film. It's both in French and English, so for those of you who are learning how to speak French, you can use that. A lot of maps, data, and interesting stories. It's a preface by Mikhail Gorbachev, who I'm happy to say, proud to say, is a personal friend and the founder of Green Cross, who is an environmental NGO that some of you might know, of which I'm vice president for France, and it's also introduced by Jean-Michel Cousteau, the son of Captain Cousteau, who is a president of Green Cross in France. Special price of $20 and $10 going to Alliance Française, if you are inclined and interested.
One last question.
Sure?
Yeah, just one last question. Yeah. When you put back your hat of venture capitalist, yes. Are you investing or helping startups in green techs? Are you interested in that, or you're using this personal passion to raise awareness? How do you do both? Yeah,
I do both independently, and the investment part and the successes I've had have allowed me to give me more and more time to do that as well. Although investing and helping startups is also a passion. I've never forced myself to do green deals, but I happen to have done a few, and the most recent one is just saw them in San Francisco last week, is a electric motor manufacturer for electric vehicles. Former Tesla engineers just did a better electric motor, smaller, faster, cheaper, which is being used in electric cars, especially in Asia. Business doing very well, and, you know, proud of that particular investment and an advisory position, because it's definitely eventually doing good for the planet. But I would look at. I don't want to do just charity, and, you know, because it's green, I'm going to put money into it. I'm really looking at start up a project, it's on merit, and everything equal. If in addition it's green and helping, the causes I like, yes, of course I'm interested. So keep them coming.
Thank you. Questions?
Sure.
It probably said this in the, probably said it in the film, but did you do your expedition at the same time as Shackleton?
No. You mean in terms of months and part of the year? Well, his overall adventure lasted about 22 months. So that was a long time, and no way any of us could do that for 22 months. But if we look at the parts, on South Georgia, he did it between end of April until mid-May, and we did it in November, early November. So we didn't try to replicate the exact dates. We had to pick a 6-week process where the ice would be strong enough for us to cross the island, minimizing the risk of crevasses and all that, where we would still see some wildlife, because going there to see zero penguin would be traumatic. Eventually we picked October, November. We got a great wildlife there. The best would still be probably December, January to get the hatching of all the chicks and there, but still we got starting, laying the nest, and it was quite interesting. So that's why we picked that period. Yes.
Great film, thank you. So I have 2 questions. First of all, how did you know how many tons the iceberg weighed? I was curious how you would calculate that, because it was quite heavy.
Yeah.
And the other question, you had GPS, all kinds of things that Shackleton didn't have. So I'm just curious, how on earth did he make it across that island?
Yeah.
And you said or the narrator said that only 2 people could walk, and I wasn't quite sure why that was. Did they all have frostbite or something? And then, so there were only Shackleton and one other person.
But there were 3 actually.
Oh, I'm sorry, 3, okay. But did they all make it?
Yeah.
Without
Sure.
problem?
Yeah, thank you. First question on the iceberg. It's an estimate. Given the size of our boat when we were going along that iceberg, we estimated that it was about 100 foot high, 25, 30 meter high. Iceberg being an iceberg, of about 10 times the depth of ice under, times our 12 miles and 6 miles wide. We figured that's a volume times the 1 kilo, well, not quite a kilo, but ice per liter, and that's an estimate of the weight volume of the iceberg. So when I say twice the size of Manhattan, it might be 2.1, 2.9, but it's the order of magnitude for sure. Shackleton and going from Elephant Island to South Georgia, they were smart navigators. They did know that because of the history of the whaling and what people were doing there, they did know that the currents were going mostly from west to east, and there was no way, if you are on Elephant Island, it's shorter, if you fly to Ushuaia, to South America, but it's impossible to beat the current, especially with a little boat like that. So they just got carried by, and I'm going to say that respectfully, but even if he had not done anything, just sat on his little boat, doing nothing, no rowing, no putting a sail, the good chances that the boat would have ended, near South Georgia, because that's what the currents do there, the Weddell currents just go that direction. And by the way, that's these currents which bring all the krill which grows under the ice around Antarctica, and that brings all the krill from Antarctica to South Georgia, and that's why you have all these great wildlife, because you get all these zooplankton and whatnot. So there were 6 of them leaving Elephant Island on that tiny boat. 3 were not in great shape, and 3, including Shackleton, were able to cross the island. There too, we had one element of luck that he had that we didn't have was the weather. I mean, if he had had the storm we've had, there's no way he would have made it. I mean, he would not even have started. And they had a full moon as well, so that helped. And they said, it's no wind, full moon, let's go. And 36 hours later.
So they just went straight, they didn't stop?
They went, the 3 of them, across the island, and they said, let's go. They took very minimal ice axe, some rope, just small, a little bit of food, and that's it.
He hadn't crossed the island before. I mean, how did he know where?
Well, he didn't. He did a couple of mistakes. He went to west, and ended up on the other side in another bay, so he had to come back.